Have you ever, stood there pouring milk into your coffee or tea and wondered, am I actually canceling out the good stuff here? It's something I've definitely thought about. And it turns out it's actually a deceptively complex question.
Yeah,
Mm.
that genuinely keeps nutrition scientists debating. So, in this deep dive, our mission is pretty clear. We want to help you understand what the research actually tells us, what we know for sure, and importantly, what's still kind of uncertain about adding milk to your brew. We'll guide you through it.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with the stars of the show here. Polyphenols. These are antioxidant compounds, right? Found in both tea and coffee. But maybe you can tell us a bit more. What exactly are they?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the perfect place to start. So in black tea, you're mainly looking at compounds called catechins and theaflavins. And then in coffee, it's primarily chlorogenic acids.
Okay.
But the really key thing is why they matter so much for our health, particularly, for heart and blood vessel health.
Right. What are they doing? Well, they work in some pretty neat ways. For instance, they can boost something called flow-mediated dilation, FMD.
FMD. Okay, what's that?
Think of it like how flexible your blood vessels are, how easily they widen to let blood flow better.
Ah, I see. Like keeping the pipes clear and flexible.
Exactly. And they also stimulate something called endothelial nitric oxide synthase enos that basically triggers more nitric oxide production, which tells your blood vessels to relax.
Okay, so helping things flow smoothly again.
Precisely. And on top of that, they can reduce the activity of NADPH oxidase. Reducing that means less oxidative stress in your body. Think of it like less cellular rust.
Wow, okay. So these polyphenols are seriously beneficial little compounds.
Definitely. Really active players in vascular health.
Okay, so that makes sense. We've got these great polyphenols doing good work, but this is where the whole milk controversy comes in, right?
Yeah.
Concerns started popping up that milk might somehow, get in the way. Where did that initial worry come from?
Well, the big one, the study that gets cited a lot, was published back in 2007. It was in the European Heart Journal. Lorenz and his team, they found that adding milk to black tea seemed to, well, completely negate its positive effect on that FMD measurement we just talked about.
It just canceled it out.
In that particular study, yes, that's what they observed in healthy adults.
Okay, so what was the thinking? How was milk supposedly doing this? Was it like blocking the polyphenols?
Exactly. That was the speculation. The idea was that certain proteins in milk, specifically caseins, were binding to the polyphenols. And by binding to them, they'd make them less bioavailable.
Meaning your body just couldn't absorb them as effectively?
Precisely. Less of the good stuff actually getting into your system to do its job.
Right.
And, it wasn't just tea. Similar worries surfaced for coffee, too. Some studies suggested lower absorption of those chlorogenic acids when dairy was involved.
So for a while, it looked pretty clear-cut.
Yeah.
Milk equals bad for polyphenol benefits.
That was certainly the narrative that took hold for a bit, yeah.
Okay, but, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think, that picture isn't so black and white anymore, is it? More recent stuff seems to suggest milk might not always be the bad guy. It might even help. How does that work?
That's right. It's much more nuanced than we initially thought. We're now seeing research indicating that milk proteins might actually stabilize polyphenols during digestion.
Stabilize them. So, protect them.
Potentially, yeah. Protect them from breaking down too early in the digestive tract. So instead of just binding and blocking,
You might be binding and sort of escorting them.
that's one possibility, or at least altering how they're processed.
Yeah.
And in other scenarios, even when these polyphenol protein complexes form, they might still have antioxidant or anti-inflammatory effects, maybe through slightly different pathways, but the activity isn't necessarily just switched off.
So it's not an on-off switch. It's more complicated.
Definitely. It's very conditional. The effect really seems to depend on a whole bunch of factors.
Like what?
Well, the specific type of polyphenol matters, and the specific milk protein. The ratio between them is important too. Then you've got brewing time, the temperature, whether it's black tea, green tea, oolong,
Wow.
and even the overall food matrix, basically. What else you're eating or drinking around the same time, it all interacts.
It sounds like a complex chemical dance happening inside you.
That's a good way to put it. Very dynamic.
Okay, that's a massive shift from just milk is bad. So let's bring this back to the listener. What does this mean for you listening right now? Because we haven't even touched on, individual differences. People aren't lab rats.
Absolutely not. And individual variation is a huge piece of this puzzle that often gets overlooked in headlines. Your own unique biology is critical. Things like your gut microbiota, the bacteria in your gut,
Right.
your levels of different digestive enzymes, even small variations in your genes. These can all influence how you personally absorb and use polyphenols.
So something that might slightly reduce bioavailability in a lab test, or even in one person,
Yeah?
might have barely any effect on you, or maybe even a different effect altogether,
Yeah.
just because your system is different.
Exactly. It's a really crucial point. And it's why we have to be a little cautious about interpreting results from lab studies or even small human trials as universal rules.
Because real life is messy.
It is. Context matters so much. Your individual biology is a massive part of that context. We don't all react the same way.
Okay, so it's clear the whole milk and polyphenol thing is, well, complicated. No easy answer. Sometimes milk might reduce that immediate absorption a bit, maybe.
Right.
Other times it might help stabilize them, protect them.
Yep.
Or maybe it makes no real difference in the grand scheme of things for that person.
It really highlights that it's not just about the compounds in the cup, but the whole journey they take after you drink it.
And is the research still going on? Are scientists still looking into this?
Oh, absolutely. It's a very active area of research. New studies are constantly emerging, refining our understanding of how all these food components interact inside us. It's always evolving.
So the practical question then, should you skip the milk? What's the bottom line for someone listening?
Well, I think it honestly comes down to your personal priorities. Why are you drinking that to your coffee?
Okay.
If you're mainly drinking it for the taste, the ritual, the enjoyment, honestly, the health difference from adding milk is likely tiny, probably negligible for most people,
So just enjoy it how you like it.
pretty much. But
Yeah.
if you are specifically trying to maximize those cardiovascular or anti-inflammatory effects we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
then, just to be on the safe side, maybe drinking it black might be preferable, at least based on what we know right now.
A cautious approach, if those benefits are your primary goal.
Exactly.
And I think this quote from the source material we look at really sums it up perfectly, a great thought to leave people with. The benefit is in the context, not just the compound.
That's powerful, isn't it?
It really is. It reminds us that health, and even just enjoying food and drink, it's about the whole picture.